How is it that Jesus became known as the Messiah? After all, Christ means Messiah. So how is it that only Jesus gave the meaning a proper name? To understand this, we need to look at three things. Number one, what the Jews expected about the Messiah based on the Old Testament prophecies. Number two, how many proclaimed Messiahs failed and lost their status of such a title. And number three, how Jesus' resurrection would be the foundation upon which the first Christians proclaimed him as the true Messiah. So first, who did the Jews believe that the Messiah was? Well, based upon the scriptures such as Psalm 2, Psalm 89, and 2 Samuel 7, they understood that God would make a descendant of David king of God's people. And as such, he would lead a military campaign to overthrow Roman oppressors, would cleanse God's temple, and would establish God's everlasting kingdom to bring justice and peace. What we find before and after Jesus, however, is many proclaimed messiahs or even false messiahs who tried to fulfill such a position, but time and time again, they would be defeated and all hopes of them being the Messiah would be lost. For example, in 70 AD, a man named Simon Bar-Giora led a revolt against the Roman Empire. But the Roman emperor's son, Titus, conquered Simon and his followers with a crushing blow. And in the process, he destroyed Jerusalem and finally led Simon through the streets, only to be shamed and publicly executed. Afterward, Rome shouted with a great celebration because of another victory over their enemies. So, who in their right mind would then start proclaiming that Simon is still the Messiah? After such a crushing defeat, which one of Simon's followers would be crazy enough to still preach that he was the true Messiah? No, what you find after Simon's death is silence. This begs the question, why on earth would Jesus' followers proclaim that he is the Christ, the true Messiah, right after he experienced an even worse and more gruesome public execution? It's only because of what they would say about him as Messiah. The Messiah has risen from the dead. This is the early Christian message, and no doubt this would be a very startling and shocking revelation to many of the Jews. But the multiple witnesses to Jesus' resurrection came forth, one after the other, proclaiming, "This Jesus, whom you crucified, God raised from the dead." And this is the turning point. This is the crux, that whatever they had believed about the Messiah, if Jesus was tried and executed as King of the Jews, but God raised him up from the dead, then certainly this means God has vindicated him as the true Lord and King. This means it was through Jesus' resurrection that they saw a new light on the Old Testament prophecies, and they would now be realized in twofold, or in two parts. Yes, the Messiah will still bring victory to his people over their oppressors, but first, Jesus would give believers victory over sin and death. Yes, there's still going to be a new temple renewal, but first, Jesus would make believers the temple of God through the Holy Spirit. And yes, God's everlasting kingdom will still be established through the new Jerusalem and new heaven and earth. But first, Jesus would establish a new community of followers through the church throughout the earth. This new depth of Old Testament prophecies was only realized because Jesus has risen from the dead. As N.T. Wright says, this belief about the coming Messiah has been neither abandoned nor simply reaffirmed. It has been redefined around Jesus. Why? To this question, of course, the early Christians reply with one voice. We believe that Jesus was and is Messiah because he raised bodily from the dead. Nothing else will do. Such a profound redefining of the prophesied Messiah would be impossible unless Jesus actually rose from the dead. And the false messiahs lend proof of this. So how did Jesus become known as the true Messiah? It was only because God rose him from the dead. As Paul said, "Remember Jesus Christ, risen from the dead, the offspring of David, as preached in my gospel." This is the heart of the Christian message. This is the belief from the first Christians till now. The Messiah has risen.